Last time we started section 2.1, and we had gotten to the point where we had discussed De Morgan's laws. Does that sound right? Okay, let me remind you a little bit about De Morgan's laws so that we can then use them in a context situation. There they were. All right, so De Morgan's laws talk about ways of making equivalent statements using a negation. So if you have a conjunction and you negate it, then that negation goes towards each of the pieces inside the conjunction. So it negates P, it negates Q, and it turns the conjunction into a disjunction, the and into an or. And the same thing happens on a disjunction statement, an or statement. It negates each of the statements P and Q, and it negates the or statement so that it becomes an and statement. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use a sentence and we're going to write its negation. Now you'll notice that it has the word and in the middle of it. So it is a compound statement, right? And it's a conjunction because it says and. So as we negate this, we have three pieces to negate. We have the piece that says it is not sunny. Hang on, I thought I had my red. We have the piece that says I will go for a walk. And we have the conjunction and in the middle. And all three of these are going to change in some way. So what will the negation be for it is not sunny? It is sunny. What do we have to do about the word and? It needs to be or. And what will we do for the statement that says I will go for a walk? I will not go for a walk. So the statement, it is not sunny and I will go for a walk, negated is, it is sunny or I will not go for a walk. Okay? One of the two statements has to be negated. Doesn't have to be both of them. That's why it's an or statement in between in order for the whole statement to be a false. Now, if you think about it, that's exactly what we did when we were talking about the truth tables last night in my example when we were looking at the I'm a math teacher and I'm a mom, right? All it took for the statement to be false was one of the pieces to be false. Remember all my people? One of the pieces false was enough. That's exactly what this is saying. I've negated one of the pieces. Actually, I negated both of the pieces, but with the word or between, it means one or the other could be the false statement. It wouldn't have to be both of them to make the whole thing false, right? Okay. Conditionals. A conditional is the last type of compound statement that we're going to encounter. A conditional is a statement that is expressed if, then Q. If P, then Q. Sometimes it's also read P implies Q. The if part is called the hypothesis, and the then part is called the solution, the conclusion. The way that this is written is with an arrow. P arrow Q. If P, then Q. If I'm sick, then I'm staying in bed. If it's snowing, then we might get to cancel class, right? If something, then something else. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at in this is how a truth table is created for this, because it is a little different, and in some ways, it's just a little bit strange, right? So go ahead and draw yourself a three-column truth table. Two of the columns are P and Q, just like before. And then the last one is the arrow. So P, then Q. You already know how to fill in the first two columns, right? What is the first column underneath P going to say? Good, you remember. True, true, false, false. What's the column underneath Q going to say? And I've got a great example. This happens sometimes when you teach. You just think of one in the middle of class. Sometimes it doesn't work very well, but I think I've got a good one. Okay. So we're going to talk about what happens when the weather is bad and school gets canceled, okay? So if the weather's bad enough, then we cancel school, or then we'll use inclement weather policy. Then we have an inclement weather day. Right, you guys know what that is, right? Where they shift all your classes all around, right? Okay. So if the weather's bad enough, then we'll have an inclement weather day. So if, in fact, then the weather's bad enough and we have an inclement weather day, that would be a true statement. Okay? Both of those things happening will result in a true statement. But if the weather's bad enough, they don't cancel class, would be a false statement. That's the whole point of having those options, right? The weather's bad enough, it cancels the class. Oops, there we go. All right, so what if the weather's not bad enough? If the weather's not bad enough, could they still have an inclement weather day? Yes, we had one, didn't we? This is why I just thought this is pretty good, right? We actually had one of those. I probably would have told you before. I don't think that would ever happen. That was very strange. But that could be a true statement, right? But if we don't have bad weather, could we also not have an inclement weather day? Yeah, that's today, right? Weather is just fine. Everybody's in class when they're supposed to be. All right, so here's where this feels weird. Usually everybody's okay with the first row. True, true, true. You got two trues, everything's true for all of our conditionals, or all of our compound statements. Two trues is a resulting true statement. People are usually okay with the second row as well. If you've got a true hypothesis and a false conclusion, that's a false statement, right? That can't happen. It would be false for that statement to actually follow through in that way. People get a little bit concerned about the last two. When it starts out false, what follows then? Well, the kicker is this. If the conditional at the beginning, that hypothesis, if the hypothesis is false, we don't know what's going to happen to the conclusion. It could go either way, right? There's no way to make a statement about what happens next. It's kind of like if someone walks in here and they're a woman and they say, I have children. Maybe they do and maybe they don't, right? You don't know what comes next. The same thing's happening with that conditional statement. If the hypothesis is false, we don't know if the conclusion will hold or not, which means it could, both of those could be a true statement. Okay? All right, so let's take a look then at writing some conditional statements. Let P be the statement you build it, and Q be the statement they will come. Do you guys know? Are you old enough to know what that's from? Yeah, what's that from? No. Good try. Oh, nope. Something really old. I think it's Kevin Costner that's in it, if I'm remembering right. I'm terrible with actors' names, though, so don't quote me on that. This is the first time I've taught this and somebody in the class has not known. I've always had somebody that knew. It's from a movie called Field of Dreams. It's a movie called Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Okay, fun little trivia for the day. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the statement that's written here and we're going to write it in symbols. Here's the catch. Wherever the if is, that's the hypothesis. So here is my if, which means that this is my hypothesis. It's not always structured because we do weird things in English. Everybody agrees with that, right? It's the reason English is such a difficult language for foreigners to learn is because we do weird things in our English language. This is one of those weird things. We don't always start with the if at the beginning of the sentence, and we're kind of all okay with that when we say it. But it makes things a little bit awkward when we think about it in terms of logic statements. The hypothesis for this is still the if you build it part, the building it part, not the if, the building it part, you build it, okay? So if you build it, so what is the symbol for you build it? P, yeah, it's up here, right? P is you build it. The other one, Q, is they will come. All right, so the if tells us where the hypothesis starts. The then is inferred next, right? It's the Q on this one, they will come. Okay? They will come if you build it. The hypothesis still is if you build it. So we start our statement in symbols with the p-value, the part that's a hypothesis. Okay, the second one, the if, is actually occurring at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, it actually starts that way. It says, if you do not build it. How do I write if you do not build it in symbols? Very good. We remember a tilde, and it's P. Remember, negation is the tilde symbol. Then tells us that we have that arrow statement, the conditional. And now it says they will not come. That is tilde Q. All right, our next one we're going to do is we're going to take the statements and in symbol form, and we're going to write them in sentence form instead, okay? And we're going to do something with a conjunction, the and statement, and we're going to do something with a conditional, the if-then statement as well. So it says, let P be the statement, God loves me, and Q be the statement, I am a sinner. Okay, so P is God loves me, Q is I'm a sinner. We're going to write sentences corresponding to the following symbols. So I'm going to pause for a second and let you write down what you believe they'll be, and then we'll make sure that everybody has the right thing. Okay, so write in what you believe these sentences should be based on the work that we've done, and then we'll check them. All right, let's take a look. What did you guys write down for part A? Somebody tell me what your sentence says. Okay, so God loves me, and I am a sinner. Is that what everyone has written down? Okay, good. So someone else, Hannah gave us that one. Someone else tell me what you wrote down for the second one, for part B.
If God doesn't love me, then I am a sinner.
So nobody made any theological statement here that we believe to be true. We're just writing symbols into words, okay? Just clarify that. If God doesn't love me, then I am a sinner. This would actually be a pretty good statement for us to talk about the fact that the truth table, if the first part is false, we can't make any determination about what comes next, whether it's true or false. It could be true, it could be false. So the beliefs that we hold, we would say that that first statement's false, right? That God does love us. So that first statement, God doesn't love me, is a false statement, which means being a sinner or not being a sinner cannot be determined based on that first part of that statement, actually, either. Okay, we're going to do something interesting here. I'm going to write these in with you, and then we're going to watch a YouTube video, okay? So, conditionals. Screen looks a little bit funny. My conditionals. So if you have a conditional statement, the way that we have written them before, it's P arrow Q, right? That's the way we wrote our conditional statements before. We have some other statements that relate to that original conditional statement, and they're called the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. So what do? Well, a converse takes the order and it switches it. So it does Q arrow P. The statement is necessarily different. It will sound different, and it's actually a different statement as well. It is not logically the same meaning. Okay? We'll do that in a minute. You'll see how this works. Inverse. For an inverse, the order stays the same, but we negate both of the statements in the sentence. So it's tilde P implies tilde Q. So the order PQ matches the original statement, but they're both negated. What do you think might happen for the contrapositive? Right. We're going to combine both of the above operations, if you will. We're going to switch the order, and we're going to negate both of them. And in your group work, you're going to explore which ones of these are logically equivalent. Okay, there are logically equivalent statements in these 4 statements here, but they're not all 4 meaning the same thing. Okay, so you guys ready to see a video? All right, so we're going to take a look at the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive to the statement, if I'm a monkey, I have a tail. Okay, so the statement is, if I am a monkey, I have a tail. And I wanted to write it this way because I want you to see that it doesn't have to have the word then in there for the word then to be implied as being there. So if it helps you to think about it, you can write it in, but it isn't necessary. Okay, so the initial statement, if I'm a monkey, the I am a monkey is the P, and I have a tail is the Q. The words if and then are the connective. They aren't actually part of the original 2 individual statements, okay? So our converse is the first one. So what are we supposed to do for a converse? We're supposed to swap them. So what will it look like if I switch the order of the statements? Good. And Amy said it just right. The if stays at the beginning, the then stays in the middle. Don't move those. Sometimes I have people try to move everything. The if and the then stay put. Okay? But it's the statements that switch. So I will have, if I have a tail, then I am a monkey. We're going to write all these out, and then we'll actually talk about them in a sec and see if we can't figure out what Larry's issue was with the statement and its logic. How about the inverse? What do I do for inverse? Yeah, I negate them, right? But they stay in the same place as they were in the original statement. So make sure you're looking back at the original statement. The if stays right here. But the monkey part now will say what? If I am not a monkey. The then stays there. What will come after the then? Then I do not have a tail. And then the last one is contrapositive. Okay, again, the if and the then stay put. What do I do for the contrapositive? Okay, so we take the Q part at the end and we negate it. So if I do not have a tail, then what? Then I am not a monkey. So of course we believe that the lady at the zoo is probably trying to help Larry figure out which of the creatures that looked like monkeys were monkeys and which were apes. And if we take the statement that this is written here right now, if I am a monkey, then I have a tail, that's a good description that we could actually use. The problem is that when we switch things around, it doesn't always work. And that's what Larry was doing. He was switching things around and doing things with converse, inverse, and contrapositive to try to make things sound sort of like what the zoo lady said, but it wasn't exactly what the zoo lady said, right? So if you take a look at the converse, is that statement a true statement? If I have a tail, then I'm a monkey. No, give me an example. The cow, right? The cow in the video was an example of that. How about the second one? If I am not a monkey, then I do not have a tail. Also not going to work. In fact, the cow would work again as the example on that, right? How about the contrapositive? If I do not have a tail, then I am not a monkey. That's actually true. So you're going to explore in your group work which of these are logically equivalent, but we've got sort of an idea of what might work even just using this particular example. All right?